How's it going, everybody? This is Jose Trujillo. I'm in my studio here doing some stuff, and I wanted to show you how I get started with my palette, because I know some people have been asking me about how I work my palette and on and on. I'm going to do some specific, very specific videos on it that I'm preparing. These are going to be like videos you can stream. They're not just going to be on YouTube. They're going to be more specific than whatever I've done. So I want to give you a little taste of it, okay? And how I prepare my palette. That way you guys can see what this thing is about. How I do it anyways. There's no right way or wrong way of doing it. There's just doing it. And I'm going to show you how I prepared, for example, my white, okay? How I prepared my palette, because every single one has a different type of consistency, and I play it by touch, right? By the viscosity, if you will. I have some white right here. I usually like using different types of whites. This one's it's Winton from Winsor Newton. Okay. This one it's not that expensive, but it's very good for the price. Okay. This one's a soft mixing white. I like to use different ones. I like to use titanium. I just don't like using zinc because I know that it contains toxic properties and whatnot. So, and nothing to kill you, right? I don't think so. But I still don't care for it. So this is how I do it, okay? I'm going to show you how I prepare white, okay? Now this is how I do it. Again. So just squeeze it out. All of it, the whole tube. Okay? Now don't squeeze out the whole tube if you don't use the whole tube, please. I use one of these Wranglers, or tube wringer, not Wranglers. Tube wringer. You press on it. Right? Make sure that this goes up. And that's how I do it. Look, check it out. Now, because of the way I create artwork, right? It's so demanding to have enough color. I like to use impasto-like textures and whatnot, different stuff. I actually squeeze two out of them, you know. This is my morning ritual, checking out my colors. Remember I told you guys about priming your day? It's not just the mental priming, but it's the physical priming. I just need to add some exercise also to my morning. I really need to add some exercise to my morning. But I prime my palette. I try to see what I need. Right? Because these are my tools, right? These are my tools. I have to check my brushes. It's definitely a ritualistic thing. It's definitely a ritual for me. Okay? I squeeze all of it. I don't go bananas on it, because I know some people are like, there's still left in there. Whatever. Like, that's it right there. Okay? Throws away. Now sometimes you gotta bring the big guns out, okay? You gotta stop. If you're ready to play the big boy game, you gotta stop using little tools, okay? These are to paint little paintings, not to mix paint. I got some walnut oil, okay? Now I already know the ratio. The ratio for me. It took me a while to get. That's why I don't give the ratio to people, because it might not work for you. You got to test it. You got to put a little bit of oil and see, right? The only reason I put oil, right? The only reason I put oil is so that it allows me to do this. Now this is something that I do every single day, and I wish now I had a couple of art assistants doing this for me so that I can concentrate more on creating the artwork, because this does take some time, right? Now I do a lot of painting, so this is a lot of paint, as you can see. And look, it's a lot of painting. That's because I do a lot of painting. I'm gonna do some videos that I'm gonna have this website host them. It's like they're gonna be training videos that I'm gonna show you guys how to do exactly each step of the way. And like I mentioned, I know the texture of it simply by the movement, right? I can feel it. I can feel the texture. I'm like, okay, that's it right there. What you're gonna have to do, if this is your jam, you're gonna have to practice with it. And I suggest you practice with not so much paint. This is about at least $30 of paint, because I buy in bulk, right? So this is at least about $30 of paint, at the very least. I think it's more than that. And then walnut oil is very expensive. Those of you who don't know, walnut oil is, this is about, what's in here is about, I don't know, something like $60 or more of walnut oil. So you may not start wanting to use walnut oil to begin with, or start with very little and just kind of test it out and see if it fits for you. As you can see, I do this for every paint, right? Some paint doesn't require so much, and I will talk about it because of the way the paint is manufactured, right? It doesn't matter really. It varies very little. It's kind of like sizes in clothing. It varies very little, but it does vary, and it varies in very little in brand. Check it out. So I'm looking for cake-like, almost a certain froth, right? This is this. By the way, I did not invent this. This is not something that I came up with. This is something that I use. This is how painters do it. They pre-mix their paint. The difference is that I don't like pre-mixing paint. I like to prepare my paint. This is just paint prep. A lot of people out there are like, man, how do you get it so soft and blah, blah, blah. Right? It's because you're forcing it too much, right? You're forcing it. You're painting out of the paint tube. Of course it's going to be difficult, because then the paint tube has been sitting there. And if you bought it from some random, if you didn't buy it from the manufacturer directly, you bought it from some store, right? Chances are it's been sitting there because no one has bought it for a while. So it's been sitting there for maybe months. And paint, when it sits somewhere, you say in Spanish, se descanta. I don't know if it happens to this, but what it does is that it'll start getting hard, right? The additives, they don't necessarily separate, of course not, but it starts getting hard. Hola, Zeus. I'm going to break in Spanish here for Zeus. Zeus, mi Dios. Muchas gracias. Voy a hacer unos videos en español también para que puedan entender, en castellano obviamente, para que puedan entender a las personas que nos ven en países donde hablan, o no países donde hablan español. Simplemente personas que hablan español. Estoy nada más demostrando cómo preparo mi día con mi pintura. So, there you guys have it. I think a lot of you guys would benefit from learning paint, right? Mess with paint. Don't just use it to paint. Mess with it. Like play with it, right? Mix it, pre-mix it. Play with different mediums. See what clicks for you. Because the only reason I use this, guys, is not because it's the way to use it, or it's because I use it like this and therefore I paint like that. No, it's been a progression for me. It's been a progression. It didn't happen overnight. This happened over years, where I first started painting a certain way, and then, you know, how can I move how can I move slightly faster? How can I it's about moving slightly faster but perfecting my game as well, and it's both. It's consciously and unconsciously, right? Because you learn in the doing. So it's not only one way, and it's definitely not the only way to do things. Of course, this is not the only way to do things. There are many artists who are extremely prolific and create a lot of work, big bodies of work, that do not go through this, right? Their jam is different because it's about what you want, right? Your paint to how you want your paint to react, and you're gonna find out as you're going through the thing. You're not gonna find out right away. You're gonna find out as you're going through it. My green right here is very almost dried, like the. So I recommend those of you who use Viridian and different brands. It does the same thing. It creates a film very quick. Viridian and blacks dry, create a film very quick in different brands. Okay. So I don't mix a lot of it because I already know that you waste a lot, right? And I paint a lot and I still waste a lot. It's just part of the, once it becomes a thing that you do all the time, you're there's gonna be spills, right? There's gonna be spills and you start wasting stuff. So since we're here already, let me show you how I mix the green. Okay, now the green has a different consistency. Okay, I'm using a Viridian here by Winton. I love this Viridian. I love this one, and I love Georgian. I think it's Phthalo green or Phthalo blue, something like that. Georgian Phthalo. I like using it. These are not very expensive, but they're pigmented enough for, especially when you do the type of work that I do, impasto type of work. Okay. My work is not. I go back and forth between being very thin and then layers that are thick. So I kind of have a handle on it already, but still. So I don't use the whole tube. I already learned from the green many years. Regardless of what Viridian I use, it dries very quick. I don't know if it's the additives of the green or whatever. Now, I put some green right there, right? I'm going to get some walnut oil, and I'm just going to, just a little bit. If you do too much, well, you're going to have to feel it, right? You're going to have to test it. If you do too much, what happens with it is that Viridian is usually very frothy. For some reason, companies do it like that. Almost like a cake mix. It's already very frothy. So if you put too much, especially when it comes to synthetic paints, okay? If you're doing like some high-end, I don't know, using high-end paints for whatever reason that is outside of me, because synthetic paints are really freaking awesome. I used to do that. I used to use high-end paints and paint on Belgian linen canvases. And it's just to say that I did it in that. It just doesn't really make any, not for me, not for what I do. Maybe maybe if I did other type of work, it would make sense. You see it, compadres? So this is how I prepare my morning. Now this is still a little, and I'm going to put a little bit more. Again, I'm using walnut oil. For those of you who have asked me about mixing colors and whatnot, I don't pre-mix colors. I used to pre-mix colors. I don't do it anymore. I become more direct. As I mentioned before, I like a very simple straight line approach. I don't mix. I don't pre-mix colors anymore. It's a time waster for me. It doesn't make any sense anymore. But I did for a few years. I pre-mix my colors. I would pre-mix oranges. I would pre-mix different blues, different reds. Right, try to create crimson reds and on and on and on. Burnt siennas. I would pre-mix some of the burnt siennas, just to have certain earth tones. I don't do that anymore. I just out of the tube and it goes. Right? Sort of like Cold Stone ice cream. Now, the reason why I like to use a glass table, right? This is a glass palette. It's an entire glass table. This is about 24 by 48 inches. More and more, I realize I need at least a couple of this or something way bigger. I started with something very small. The reason why is because you can clean it very, very easily. In comparison to a wood, right? A wood panel that you put, it's harder to pre-mix colors because it starts creating residue and it starts soaking in the wood and all kinds of stuff. And I don't like it. I don't like it. I did it before. I used to paint like that. I used to paint on wood. And, other than like, it looks cool to pose on a photograph. It makes no sense for me. Especially at the large scale of works that I do, it doesn't make any sense. I need glass, and this is tempered glass, so it's not. The oil name is walnut oil. This one's walnut oil. It's by a company. Let me show you guys because a lot of you guys have been asking me about. It's by Graham. Very expensive stuff. This gallon's about 100 bones. It's expensive stuff, but it's definitely worth it. Just because it's not toxic, right? Someone told me that it was edible. I still don't. Right? Someone who sells at an art store. They're like, yeah, when they do the presentations, they bring salads and because it's walnut oil, right? But I don't know. I don't eat it. Sometimes when I drop some on the floor, not sometimes when I drop it, I'm always dropping on the floor. I have carpets that I put down here. But I have a couple of puppies, and they'll come and lick the walnut. I'm always chasing them out because they like licking the walnut oil. I'm like, no, you're gonna die, right? Because I still don't trust. I don't trust mediums. I used to use linseed oil. It's the worst thing. If you're a professional artist and you're always creating artwork, right? Don't use toxic stuff, guys. There's just no need. Like, I've thought about it so many times to go from oil to acrylic just because I'd rather play with water, right? There's just no need. The only reason I haven't done it is because I'm so used to it. I'm so used to the consistency and the movement of the oil and what it does and how it works for me. But I'm an artist. I like to stay nimble, right? A lot of people have a hard time with that. But I'll be here one day and then I'll move over there if I need to. Like, I'll be here and I'll move there. Like, I don't care about silly shit like that, right? Like, oh my God, I have to paint in oil. Like, dude, if you must, right? If you must do something, then you're probably doing the wrong thing. That's what I think anyways. Like, you shouldn't have to. I was looking for my coffee, guys, but I placed it over here. Yeah, my café. Like, if you must do something, like if it's like, oh man, I have to do that. I don't know, maybe you're just married to it. I like to not marry things, right? I don't like marrying things. Like if that white at some point starts bothering me, I'll switch it. I used to use French ultramarine blue, right? For a long time. And at some point, I just, it's like, it's too light. My paintings just became very vibrant, and I couldn't create that chiaroscuro that I really wanted, right? That light and dark at some point because my work started changing. And I switched it. Out of the way, I'm using phthalo blue now, right? So I like to keep it nimble. And I know a lot of you guys have seen me use this palette, and it's because It's a simple palette. It's a very simple palette. I have white, phthalo, Viridian, which you can make turquoise, and you can make all kinds of things, especially if you mix this too, right? And then I have just regular yellow. This is just yellow. This is not, right? This is just pale hue, cadmium. I like using cads because they're bright. And then I have red, right? Again, very simple red. I don't go into like a crimson red, and I got rose, permanent rose, and right? It's just red. I like to keep it simple. Simple is good. Simple allows me to move, right? If I have a very complicated palette, then your mind becomes complicated. You know, it can, unless you have a complicated palette by default, right? That you're working and all of a sudden it becomes complicated. It becomes complicated because to other people, but not to you. Then by all means, right? And then I got dioxazine purple right here. It's a beautiful color. You can make all kinds of cool stuff, especially dioxazine purple and Viridian. You start making the best grays in the world. And I'm talking about like some really cool artsy-fartsy grays that are like super contemporary, which a lot of my interior designer buyers love asking for, because you know, gotta stay on trend. And if you're not looking at what I think the company's called Pantone, the people that come up with the colors, what color is going to be in trend, you're not doing yourself a service. You need to be watching out for the trends of the colors. Not necessarily to please anyone, guys. I don't do that for that reason. But I do know that I'm selling to a market, right? And that market makes decisions based on certain things, right? So if check out the color of the year. Just Google it, right? What's the color of the year, right? And you just know you have that in the back of your mind. Now, you're not doing that so that you paint that. No, it's just you have it in the back of your mind. And when you're creating artwork, it's almost like you absorb by osmosis, right? When you're creating artwork, it pops out. It pops out a little bit, right? You don't really even realize, but it's part of your tools, right? I like to do that. I like to find out what's the color of the year, what's going on, right? It's same thing with frames, right? What frames are in trend right now? I know a lot of silver right now, right? What decor is in trend right now with interior designers, right? Why do I say interior designers? Because most of the collectors are not like art collectors from like the movies. Most collectors are people who want to decorate their home, but they're trying to marry both things. They're trying to marry something they really love, right? Something they really love, but how can I place it in my home, right? Because they might really love something like impressionist painting and blah, 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 but the whole decor is set a certain way. And if you bring in an ornate frame, right, into the game, right, a very Baroque type ornate frame to their home decor, it doesn't marry, right? It doesn't marry, and then they feel split. But if you can, you know, somehow put a frame like a silver frame or a minimalist modern frame to the painting that they love, then that's something that they can marry. Anyways, I'm going off here on other stuff that it's more high end. It's stuff that has helped me find my success, guys. Anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. Take care. I hope that you guys found any value. If you guys found any value in this, let me know. Stay cool. Stay happy. Get your coffee on because it's time to work. Let's go. Take care, guys. Adios. As soon as I learn